Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of March 24th to the 30th, 2024, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them, though. So we have 5 stories to cover this week, including some comments made in GDC about why some developers feel what's the point of bringing their games over to the Xbox if they feel like Xbox is going third party and all. Layoffs, unfortunately, have been hitting several studios, though, including ranging from Sega to some extent Nintendo of America, and even GameStop itself is being hit at this as well. Reports about the possibility that Resident Evil 9 could be taking a open world approach, though. We also have reports about supposedly what Phil Spencer is talking about in terms of what he would like to see from a handheld, to prototypes that could be in the work, to even the Circana reports for February 2024 in terms of what games did and did not do very well or anything like that. If you're interested in where I got the source of these informations, links will be in the description of this video and all, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cent stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into sort of a huge amount of details or anything like that. The first thing we do want to point out is basically the Penny's Big Bakery. There has been an update been released for the Nintendo Switch, and apparently it does offer the option to play the game at 60 frames per second, which is good, but there does seem to be a catch, as there are reports coming out that while the game does go at 60 frames per second, there are times when it kind of could dip a little bit in certain sections of the game. So I don't know if this means further along the line they'll address this problem or not, but while part of me is happy they're adding a 60 frames per second option, the other part says that if it's basically an unstable 60 frames per second, that can be somewhat of an issue, and I'm hoping the developers can address that, at least for the Switch decision. We also have a report from GameIndustry.biz that basically talks about what happened to Free Radical and Time Splitter and everything like that, and it remains uncertain what the future of that franchise is going to be, as the developers feel like they don't want any part of it anymore, given the whole situation we're seeing with basically Embracer Group and everything like that, given the whole fallout from that kind of a situation. It is an interesting read and everything like that. We also learned that there has been some reports going online that there may be more Sonic games in development, including the possibility that Sonic Heroes could get a remaster treatment, as supposedly it could be running on Unreal Engine 5, although supposedly an infamous Aulx leaker who is currently supposedly is retiring is making the claim that basically this is being taken into consideration. So nothing official or anything like that, but given how we've seen some developers have remastered or remade some of their games, Capcom for example with Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4, I wouldn't rule out the possibility that Sega could remake or remaster some of their older games or anything like that. We're already seeing some newer versions with Jet Set Radio, Streets of Rage, Crazy Taxi, which they're aiming to be a AAA type of experience. Whether they could pull that off or not remains to be seen at this time. So we'll have to wait and see about this. We also learned that in Japan, Princess Peach's Showtime, which is currently available right now, apparently has got the #1 spot in terms of this week, in terms of the Famitsu sales and everything like that, though. So obviously it's doing very well, at least currently in Japan. It'll be interesting to see how well it does, especially here in the West, particularly in the US and everything like that. When March's Circana numbers come out, we'll find out for certain how well that game has done here in the West. But for the time being, it seems Princess Peach's Showtime is doing very well and everything like that. We also learned reports that rumor has it that Toys for Box, which though has gone independent, seems to be working with Microsoft, and it's apparently one of the games they could be working on is the next iteration of Spyro the Dragon. Rumor has it pointing at Spyro 4 and everything like that. Again, nothing official at this time, but given how Toys for Bots are still open to working with Microsoft and everything like that, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think some of us would have liked to have seen them take a shot at with, like say Banjo-Kazooie, which there are rumors going around that Microsoft has greenlighted that project, but time will tell whether or not that will happen. Maybe if this rumor about Spyro the Dragon 4 is true and it does do very well, maybe this can open the door to the possibility of them taking a shot at, let's say, Banjo-Kazooie in general, or Conker's Bad Fur Day in general. We also learned that basically Take-Two will now acquire the Borderlands developers, Gearbox Entertainment. This was after rumors about possibility that Embracer Group was going to be selling off, Gearbox and all, and apparently that rumor turned out to be true, so Take-Two will be acquiring them, which to a certain degree kind of makes sense since a lot of the games Gearbox has done has been on Take-Two and all, and there are now reports claiming that Borderlands 4 is in development at this time, so time will ultimately tell how Gearbox will be under Take-Two Interactive and going forward and all. And finally, last but not least, there are reports coming out of a leaked image of basically an all-digital Xbox Series X. This has kind of been rumored for quite some time, whether or not this was going to happen. There were reports about the possibility they might do a refresh or a pro version, but it doesn't seem that's the direction Microsoft is going compared to the rumors with Sony with the PS4 Pro, which is getting some mixed response to some folks depending on who you're asking. But if these images are legitimate, and odds are they could be, it does sound like a all-white, all-digital Xbox Series X will be released and everything like that. We still have to wait to hear if this is true, and if so, we still have to wait for the official confirmation from Microsoft in general. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, this one the trailer premiered last week. I didn't get a chance to put it in here because, well, with YouTube, you could put up the 5 cards up on your video, so unfortunately I did not have enough room. But this one had to do with the teaser trailer for the upcoming sequel to Beetlejuice, named Beetlejuice. This is one I'm definitely looking forward to. Michael Keaton's back playing Beetlejuice, and it looks like he's able to maintain that character. We'll see how the movie does when it comes out basically later this year, but this one is definitely on my radar, that's for certain. We also learned basically, we do have at least a look at what the release schedule for basically James Gunn's DC Cinematic Universe is going to be and everything like that. There may have been some changes around here and there, but it looks like some stuff like Creatures Commando will be basically an animated series that were part of the DC Cinematic Universe. Peacemaker is going to be returning, and John Cena is reprising his role as Peacemaker, but Season 2 is going to be a little different. At this one, we'll ignore the events of Season 1, since this will be more tied into the DCU in general, at least from what I am reading about this. So time will tell how this is going to play out, though. We'll have to see how James Gunn handles the DC Cinematic Universe compared to how the DCEU was handled. We also learned that basically it is official that Disney Plus and Hulu are somehow basically are integrated together. What this means is that for those who have Disney Plus, they'll be able to access Hulu originals on Disney Plus or anything like that. The catch is, however, you have to sign up for maybe the Disney bundle if you want to get access to it, and Hulu Live TV doesn't seem to be available on Disney Plus. You'll have to have what looks like the Hulu app and all. I'll have to take a look at this myself. I might do a video on it and give my take on what I think about this approach and everything, but it's an interesting approach, and we'll see how this goes forward and everything like that. One thing I did notice is that when I went into my Disney app, they changed the color from its blue to its greenish blue, henceforth with Hulu and everything like that. And last but not least, we have learned that both Disney and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has basically supposedly settled a lawsuit that the two have been fighting back and forth over for quite some time. This had to do with, some of the former CEO responding to Ron DeSantis' awful and controversial "Don't Say Gay" bill and everything like that. Personally, I think he was just wasting Florida's taxpayer dollars, and ever since his presidential campaign pretty much came to an end, it seems as though he is trying to put let this be water under the bridge kind of a situation. So we'll see how this all plays out, but so far, for now, it looks like both sides, both Disney and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis seems to have settled this out of court at the very least and all. Okay, with the quick my 2 cent part and the movie and TV show part now officially done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the February 2024 Circana / formerly known as the NPD Group's numbers. Now, obviously, we got to take a look at February and all, and at least according to what the Circana pointed out to us, there were certainly some games that I think did pretty well. Obviously, the big one has to be Helldivers 2 and all. And while I'm not big on co-op shooters or really anything like that, it pretty much appears to be the game really did very well, at least for Sony and everything. And it took like the #1 spot not only on the NPD charts, but also even on the Steam charts as well. According to several different articles, this one from WCCF Tech, it points out that in terms of the hardware sales, it points out that basically, it was a pretty solid month for the industry. They say that players, at least according to Matt Piscatella, players spent $4.7 billion on games, additional content, and hardware in February, up 2% year on year. Hardware was a weak spot, down 30% year on year, with the PS5 in #1 in terms of units and dollar sales. Switch at #2 in terms of unit sales, and Xbox Series X and X at #2 in terms of dollar sales and everything like that. So all three had some bright spots to a certain extent. In terms of what the top premium games of February were, this is what, according to Circana, we have Helldivers 2 at #1, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at #2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 at #3, no pun intended, Skulls and Bones at #4, Tekken 8 at #5, Madden NFL 24 at #6, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League at #7, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth Twin Pack at #8, Persona 3 Reload at #9, Hogwarts Legacy at #10, Mario vs. Donkey Kong on at #11, EA Sports FC at #12, Spider-Man 2 at #13, Elden Ring at #14, Super Mario Bros. Wonder at #15, Minecraft at #16, Mario Kart 8 at #17, Mortal Kombat 1 at #18, Rainbow Six Siege at #19, and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora at #20. And as far as the top games of 2024 to date, this is what they have. They have Helldivers 2 at #1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 at #2, Tekken 8 at #3, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at #4, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League at #5, Madden NFL 24 at #6, Persona 3 Reload at #7, Hogwarts Legacy at #8, Skulls and Bones at #9, and EA Sports FC at 24 at #10. In terms of the top 10 on the Steam charts, or the Steam ranked games, this is what they had. At #1, they had Helldivers 2. At #2 was Palworld. #3 was Counter-Strike 2. #4 is Lethal Company. #5 is Baldur's Gate 3. #6 is Enshrouded, if I'm saying the names correctly. At #7 was Last EPOCH. I'm sorry if I butchered that name, but last month's ranking it was at 113, and now that's at #7. That's quite a jump, at least on the Steam chart size. #8, it's Rocket League. #9 is The Finals, and #10 is Elden Rings. So, in looking at this, though, and looking at these numbers, it seems like the big winners were basically Helldivers 2 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which was kind of interesting for that game, considering supposedly it didn't do as well in Japan as Square Enix had hoped for and everything like that. But still, being at #2 isn't necessarily bad or everything like that. Mario vs. Donkey Kong, I think at #11, I think it was at #11, wasn't really that surprising, considering that is a remake of a Game Boy Advance game and everything like that. So, I mean, some of this stuff I wasn't surprised. Helldivers being at #1, again, not surprising given the response that game has had. it's going to be very interesting to see how it will be next month when March's Circana numbers come out, especially with two big releases that came out, or three exactly. Rise of the Ronin, Princess Peach Showtime, and Dragon Dogma 2. Considering all three of those games have come out and everything like that, it's going to be very interesting to see where those are going to be stacked in the Circana groups once those numbers start coming out for them, though. But clearly for February, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Helldivers 2 were probably the big winners, though. Obviously, Sony must be happy with Helldivers 2 and everything like that and all. So overall, though, I mean, some of these that were announced wasn't really that surprising to me and everything like that. Seeing Helldivers 2 take the #1 spot isn't really shocking to me, considering how well that game was received, though. And it was nice to see Final Fantasy VII Rebirth get the #2 spot and everything like that. It'll be interesting to see how much legs Helldivers 2 will have, especially going into next month when we have March's 2024 Circana numbers and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with some more reports coming out about the whole idea of Microsoft doing, or Xbox doing, a handheld device. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be talking about the rumored Xbox handheld. Now, this one has kind of picked up steam for a while and everything like that. And there's always been wondering whether Microsoft will enter the handheld market and everything like that. I mean, up to this point, the handheld market has mostly been dominated by Nintendo and all, with, you know, going back to the Game Boy, to on the 3DS, to even the Nintendo Switch, which exploded in 2017 with the whole console handheld hybrid concept, though, which I definitely like that concept in general. And we're all pretty much waiting for when Nintendo officially announces, you know, the Switch 2 or Switch successor or whatever they're going to refer to it. And more than likely, we'll keep that phone factor, that console handheld concept and everything like that. But as far as Microsoft goes, they've kind of stayed out of the handheld approach, at least for the time being and all, compared to what Sony did with the PSP or the Vita, although the Vita, I think, died a slow and early death rather than what the PSP did. And right now, although the PlayStation Portal is selling very well, there are still people confused to what's supposed to be and everything like that at all. Well, recently there have been rumors and so forth, been going back and forth about the possibility of Microsoft entering the handheld space. This has to do with not only the success of what the Nintendo Switch has been doing, but we've also lately been seeing stuff like the ROG Ally to the Steam Deck portable PCs, to be exact, entered the market, though. And while the Steam Deck can only be available, at least if you order from Steam and everything like that, that seemed to be doing very well, including, I think, the ROG Ally to a certain extent. And it seems as though we're now starting to see Microsoft might be dipping their toes into it, though whether it eventually sees the light of day, whether or not, remains to be seen. But anyway, in an article from Pure Xbox, it is reading, quote, In the latest Xbox 2 podcast episode, Jez Corden, if I'm saying his name correctly, has now reiterated that there are handheld prototypes being developed within Microsoft's gaming division. There are apparently some newer versions of them now circulating, separate to what was first reported on earlier this year. Here's a part of what he had to say, which is in response to a development kit being certified in South Korea earlier this week. He said on the handheld rumor, he said, "I know that they got a handheld prototype right now." Jez Corden went on to say how he believes these are just prototypes, which in other words means they may not necessarily go to the market, which as a side note, there's always that possibility. I mean, there are sometimes prototypes that don't always see the light of day, or patents that get filed but never see the light of day as well. So that certainly is not out of the realm of possibility. Anyway, continuing on, it says, but Microsoft is absolutely pursuing the handheld market, internally at least. He also added these prototypes are not cloud devices and are fully native Xbox handheld systems, which, if true, as a side note, I think that's good. I mean, as an option, cloud option, that's fine, but I just don't know about just fully cloud or anything like that. Meanwhile, Phil Spencer has weighed in on this as well when being interviewed by Polygon in terms of what he would like to see in terms of a potential Xbox handheld. This is from Video Game Chronicle, says, quote, says, in an interview with Polygon, Phil Spencer spoke about how he likes to improve the experience of playing Xbox games on handheld gaming devices, be they existing one like the Asa ROG Ally, Lenovo's Legion Go, and Steam Decks, or potentially a first-party system. He said the Xbox hardware team is considering different hardware form factors and things that they could go. What should we build that will find new players, he had. This will allow people to play at times where they couldn't go play in the past. I like the fact that Valve, Lenovo, and ASUS went out and innovated a new form factor, Spencer said. And I would like to say when I am playing in those devices, it almost feels more like a console than a PC, nine times out of 10. The thing that usually frustrates me are more window-based than device-based, which is an area I feel some ownership of. Like, I want to be able to log in with a controller. I got my list of things we should go do. Regardless of whether Xbox will launch its own handheld, Spencer said he wants other handheld systems to feel like an Xbox. Forget about the brand, more like, are all my games there? Do all my games show up with the save file? Show up with the save file that I want. He adds, I want to be able to boot into the Xbox app in a full screen, but in a compact mode, and all my social experiences there. Like, I want to feel like the dash of my Xbox when I turn on the television, except I want it on those devices. So, do I think Microsoft is experimenting with some handhelds and everything like that? I do think so. I think, like I said before, there's no doubt there's probably a prototype or anything like that. But I also think there are some hurdles Microsoft will have to overcome should they decide to release a handheld device. Some of those hurdles consisting of basically what kind of approach are they going to do with this handheld? Are they going to take an approach that what Nintendo is doing with the Nintendo Switch, which is a console handheld hybrid kind of approach, though? Will we, if it's going to play native, are we going to have something like, say, if I could get this out very quickly, like something like these SD gate cards? Are we going to be able to plug them into basically our Xbox handheld device? So there's certainly some questions to be asked. And of course, how much effort is Microsoft going to put into this system? Because we've seen in the past how Sony has make these devices and then treat them as an afterthought right away. Look at the Vita, for example, though. So there's definitely a lot of questions to be asked about this, though. So time will ultimately tell whether or not this device will see the light of day, though. Again, I am curious, but we'll have to wait and see, though. I think it could work, but it is going to come down to how well Microsoft execute this. So overall, I don't disagree that they're probably going to be working on some ideas for basically of a Xbox handheld. I don't deny there's a prototype available. Whether it sees the light of day, that remains to be seen, and whether they will be able to execute it well or not, that too also remains to be seen and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with basically Resident Evil 9 and rumors about it possibly going open world and everything like that. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at sort of an interesting rumor going around regarding what Resident Evil 9 could be though. Now, if there's one thing about Capcom we've seen so far lately is that they have kind of been on a roll lately, to be exact though, especially with their RE engine though. First premiered in 2017's Resident Evil 7, the RE engine has been pretty much used on a lot of Capcom's games, and they have been doing very well for Capcom, whether it was in, like Resident Evil 7, to Devil May Cry 5, to even some of the Monster Hunter games, to even like, Monster Hunter Rise, to basically the Ghouls and Goblins remake and everything like that, though. It was also used in Dragon's Dogma 2 and all, although the response, or at least some of the decisions Capcom has made with Dragon's Dogma 2 with the RE engine has been sort of, I would say, mixed slash controversial, depending on how you want to view that at all. Well, recently it does seem that there is a push, at least according to, if these rumors are true, that Resident Evil 9 could be open world and everything like that. A lot of this information is coming from supposedly a Capcom leaker by the name of, who goes by the name of Dust Goldman, though. There are several articles about this, but according to it, it basically refers to a tweet that he put out on X, formerly known as Twitter and all. There are basically 2 parts of it. He says in this one, quote, "So here's a little tidbit I'll share. Capcom often would greenlit new initiatives in 3 close together. Decent examples are Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and Devil May Cry 5 were all greenlit fairly closely together to take advantage of the new RE engine. The idea to remake Resident Evil 2 inspired them to also," and the second part says, "take on Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 4 for the remake initiative though. It is worth pointing out Capcom is considering remaking other Resident Evil games, to be exact. No word of what those might be. Personally, I think Code Veronica could be a good choice to even, I know this might be a shot in the dark on this one, Resident Evil Dead Aim, that was part of the Gun Survivor series. They could try that as well. Anyway, continuing on, it says, quote, "Dragon Dogma expands RE Engine's functionality for open world games. The 2 other games built on this tech is Monster Hunter Wild, which supposedly has been announced, and Resident Evil 9. Now, I will say about this though, assuming this rumor is true, again, it's a rumor, we don't know 100% if it is true or not, I'm kind of mixed on this one to a certain degree. I think when it comes to open world games, I think open world games can work if they're executed properly though. We've seen how some open world games don't always pan out as well. I mean, we know there are some that are memorable, like, Grand Theft Auto 5 or Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, but then there are some, like, say, some of the stuff that Ubisoft has done, which has certain fans, let's just say not everyone is pleased with the direction Ubisoft goes with it, turning every game into an open world kind of approach. I think, to me, as far as if Resident Evil 9 is going to happen and it does take an open world approach, I think there is potential if it's executed correctly and it can maintain that fear and horror that the Resident Evil series is known for, to be exact though. But at the same time, when you look at some of the response made with the recent release of Dragon Dogma 2, including some of the questionable decisions Capcom has made into it, not to mention some design choices and all, it certainly raises question on whether or not a open world Resident Evil game would actually work or anything like that though. I mean, time will ultimately tell. Maybe Capcom will improve some of the areas with Dragon Dogma 2. Maybe they will learn some lessons from this to figure out if they're going to make Resident Evil 9 open world, what they need to do right and what they need to avoid doing wrong and everything like that though. But I will admit I am kind of mixed on this one, to be exact though. So I think there is potential, but I could see how they could F it up on so many levels though. One last thing in terms of regarding the Resident Evil remake. Should Resident Evil 5 and 6 get the remake treatment? I wouldn't be against it, but given how those ones were kind of polarizing, especially 6 though, I think they would have to do a major overhaul if they decide to remake 5 and 6, considering they were built around co-op and everything like that, and didn't really have a horror element compared to what past Resident Evil and current Resident Evil games has had. So should 5 and 6 get the remake treatment, I think that they're going to have to redo a lot of things if they want to make those games work now and everything like that. So overall, in regards of Resident Evil 9 being open world, I do think there is potential to it, but I also can see that there are some pitfalls to it as well. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4. And this one has to do with, unfortunately, reports of layoffs happening again in the gaming industry, including hitting Nintendo of America, although not as much as we've heard from other studios, to be exact though, but still, nevertheless, it's still layoffs no matter what. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of my 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be talking about, unfortunately, layoffs. And sadly enough, though, the industry last year saw plenty of layoffs start to happen in the industry and so forth, though. Probably one of the biggest ones I could think of was with Embracer Group, ever since that supposed deal they had with Saudi Arabia fell apart, and that forced them to close a lot of studios and everything like that. Voltron's one of them. Free Radical, especially with the whole situation with Time Splitter and all that stuff, though. And there were concerns that 2024 was going to be like that, and unfortunately, that is the case with 2024. As it seems as though that three of them, Sega, Nintendo, and even GameStop as well, have been hit by layoffs, though. Although with Nintendo, I will say this one, while not as bad as the ones we've seen from other companies, still, I'm not denying the fact that this is not great either, especially for a lot of these employees who may have jobs and everything like that. We'll start off with the first one, and this has to do with Sega, as it now has been reported that Sega has sold Relic Entertainment and has announced layoffs across multiple teams. Supposedly, 204 jobs will be cut. I mean, on one hand, that's great. It's not the 1,000 jobs, though, but still, it's going to be a lot of employees lost, though. Anyway, continuing on with the article, it says, as reported by IGN, the job losses will be split across Sega Europe, Creative Assembly, and Sega Hardline. It's reported that the latter will be the least affected, with the majority of layoffs hitting Sega Europe and Creative Assembly. Meanwhile, Relic Entertainment will effectively become an independent studio run with support from external investors. The appointed head of Sega Europe sent an email staff to notify the change and start the following. Quote, I want to sincerely apologize for the worry and understandable distress this news will cause, particularly for those directly affected. These decisions have been incredibly tough to make, and they follow a miraculous, consideration and deliberation with leadership teams across the business. Change is necessary to secure the future of our game business and to ensure that we are all well placed to deliver the best possible experience to our players going forward. We need to streamline, focus on what we're good at, and positions ourselves at best as we can for the road ahead. In order to do that, we need to respond to the changing economic landscape and the challenges we're facing the way we develop our products and bring them to the market. This person, Mr. Post, also apologized to staff finding out about the layoffs via social media due to the company's legal obligations to notify the Tokyo Stock Exchange first. He said, quote, due to the Due to the nature of this announcement and our legal obligation in Japan, we were unable to share any details with you until now. This is far from the idea and means some of you may have read about this in the media or via social network before seeing this email. If that's the case, I'm sorry. The news is the latest string of layoffs hitting the game industry, with Sega cutting 61 jobs back in March of this year. Other companies reported layoffs, including Microsoft, Embracer Group, and of course, and Telltale Games and more. Meanwhile, over another one, GameStop, which is the retailer for a lot of video games and everything like that, have also, unfortunately, had started to make some layoffs, basically. It says that, quote, as reported by Reuters, thank IGN, the firm saw $1.794 billion in sales from its fourth quarter of its fiscal year, a fairly dramatic drop from the $2.26 billion earned over the same period the previous year. Net income fares a bit better at $63.1 million compared to $48.2 million, but there seems to be growth concern as the decline in sales of digital media sinks its teeth into the industry. In fact, Webster Analysis, Michael Patcher has stated that sales may decline to an unsustainable level if GameStop management is unable to come up with a plan to get customers back in stores. This is what Michael Patcher had to say. Quote, an increased mix of digital download is hurting physical retail, and there is simply no reason to go to the store if a consumer can just order a game and download it immediately. Revenues are highly unlikely to rebound unless management finds a way to drive store traffic. I suspect they will keep trimming costs to generate break even or better, but it's inevitable that their sales will decline to an unsustainable level. GameStop have recently taken measures to reduce its spending, including removing its operation entirely from Ireland, Switzerland, and Austria, along with decreasing its full-time workforce by around 3,000 members, around 3,000 staff members. It's not known exactly how many have been affected by this most recent rounds of layoff. As a result of this news, GameStop's share prices have taken a bit of a tumble at $15.18 to $13.06 at this time of writing, though. I mean, it is a little bit unfortunate. I've shopped at GameStop, at least the ones that I've gone to. I really haven't had any major issues or anything like that. Again, I can't speak for everybody that has gone to GameStop. I can only be based on my experience and all. You have seen them push through with, like vinyls and t-shirts and all that stuff. But yeah, as digital distribution starts becoming the new norm and everything like that, GameStop's going to have to find a way to maintain it. Maybe they could take a page out of like Play Asia and have maybe games you can exclusively find only at GameStop or anything like that. So there may be ways they could find the way, but yeah, I mean, as I said, digital distribution is starting to become slowly becoming the new norm and everything like that. I think that can be both a good and a bad thing, in a way, to be exact, though. And finally, last but not least, we have also Nintendo of America has announced that they are basically restructuring testing department with over 100 contractors' jobs reported eliminated, though. This is what the article had to say, though. According to an article from Kotaku, which, again, I know people have mixed with Kotaku, but you can take it however you want to take it, to be exact, though. Nintendo of America has massively downsized its small army of contractors responsible for testing games and hardware. In an official statement, a Nintendo spokesperson confirmed this change will involve some contractors' assignments ending, as well as the creation of a significant number of new full-time employee positions. Nintendo of America branch will also provide support to contractors' agency during this period. This is what they had to say. Quote, Nintendo of America has reorganized its product testing functionality to drive greater global integration in game development effort. The change will also be better aligned NOA with interregional testing procedures and operation. These changes will involve some contractors' assignments ending, as well as the creation of a significant number of new full-time employee positions. For all the assignments that are ending, the contractor's entity with NOA support will offer severance package and provide assistance during their transition. For those contractors associated who will be leaving us, we are tremendously grateful for the important contribute they made to our business, and we extend our helpful thanks to their hard work and services to Nintendo and all. While Nintendo does not specifically mention how many employees have been impacted, according to Kotaku sources, for current and former employees, the restructuring may affect over 100 contractors, and most of them being converted to full-time status appear to be getting moved out of software testing. On social media, though, Gotcha claimed roughly 120 contractors' positions have been eliminated and mentioned how Nintendo wants to internally message this as a move to better integrate testing across its official offices rather than as a cost-cutting measure. The same report said the restructuring does not appear to impact existing full-time employees at Nintendo of America, and suggests there's been a lull in the testing department in recent times with supposedly no major first-party games in the testing pipeline. So I guess you could read that as one part of it, you could read it as that maybe they're gearing up for Switch 2 and everything like that, though. But as far as some of these employees go, again, on one hand, it is a small number, so that certainly is better than what we've been hearing, where like sometimes we hear over like 1,000 layoffs and everything like that. But on the other hand, it is also a reminder of the industry is going through some tough times with a lot of these layoffs. Some of it does fall on management, some of it doesn't. So very unfortunate what is happening with some of these employees. I'm hoping they're able to get jobs and everything, find new jobs and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, this has got to be tough for a lot of these employees and all that going through this tough time and everything like that. My heart goes out to them, and I'm hoping they're able to find new jobs and everything out there. So overall, unfortunately, it's more layoffs we're seeing in 2024, and I would not be surprised going further into 2024 we start hearing more and more layoffs. It's very unfortunate and sad, to be exact, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to our fifth and final part, and this one has to do with some reports coming out about questioning, at least from what claims to be a big-time third-party publisher on what's the point of putting their games on Xbox and everything like that. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fifth and final part of our My Choice Event video. And for this one, we're going to be talking about recent comments made by at least some developers, or at least one in particular, in regarding Microsoft's handling of the Xbox and everything like that. I will say the Xbox brand under Phil Spencer has sort of been, I would say, mixed in terms of how you want to look at it, though. On one hand, it is true that Phil Spencer did try to turn things around with Xbox, with basically after what happened, excuse me one second, with the Xbox One and everything under Don Matrix. So I will at least give him credit for it. And I will say the Xbox Series X and S, I will say I think has fared better than what the Xbox One has done. But even so, there has been some questionable decisions, at least on some of the decision Phil Spencer has made and everything like that. Though particularly some of the comments in regards to exclusivity, which I kind of disagree to a certain extent, and I cite Bayonetta 2 as a good example of this, and where in this case Nintendo was willing to 100% fully fund that game in exchange to make that as an exclusive. That said, I do agree there is some legitimate criticism that could be made about exclusive, including with like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, which, as much as I enjoy those games, I do agree with the criticism of Sony paying Square Enix to not put those games on other systems. That I could see a criticism towards exclusivity though. Well, recently during GDC, two things happened though. One was an interview that Phil Spencer made again with Polygon in terms of why he is pivoting the Xbox brand and all. And the other one seems to indicate, at least from a certain source, claiming given the direction Microsoft is going with the Xbox, it does seem to indicate what's the point and all. In an article, two of the articles, one from The Gamer and one from Video Game Chronicles, it reads that, quote, that some publishers reportedly question supporting Xbox amid flatlining sales, though. According to this article, this is what it has to say, quote, that's according to a GameIndustry.biz head, Chris Dring, who said his takeaway from GDC last week was he thinks Xbox is in real trouble as a hardware manufacturer. The other thing I heard from a very prominent company and one not so prominent was Xbox performance in Europe is just flatlining. He said though, we can follow our monthly coverage in the game market and you can see that Xbox sales are falling and has been falling all throughout last year, and it's falling even harder this year. The phrase of one major company who released a big game last year said was, I don't know why we bother supporting it. We mentioned on a previous podcast that we've heard from retailers in Europe are considering or has already been cutting back their Xbox stocks on their shelves, hardware, games, that kind of thing. And now you got third-party publishers going, we're putting a lot of effort in trying to create a Series X version and an X version of game, when to be honest with you, for us, the market is PC and PS5. Last year, Microsoft admitted to having lost the console war after consistently ranking third behind PlayStation and Nintendo in terms of sales since entering the market with the original Xbox in 2021 and all. And meanwhile, over at The Gamer, it seems as though there was an mention about some of the interview about how Xbox says its brand pivot was driven by Gen Z's habits and everything like that. The article does mention, according to Spencer, gone are the days, let's see if I get this right, he said it could be difficult to imagine Xbox seemed to be so keen on chipping away from its own hardware, but Xbox Phil Spencer recently laid out some of the reasons behind the company's brand pivot in an interview with Polygon at GDC 2024. Aside from just wanting to raise Xbox profitability, as Spencer stressed that the platform is still a business that needs to make money, he also wants Xbox to maintain relevance with a younger audience. According to Spencer, gone are the days of younger audience that want an Xbox just to be one device to plug into a television, and that the Gen Z research suggests people want all of their games in as many places as possible. This notion that Xbox can only be this one device that plugs into a television isn't something we see in Gen Z research, explained Spencer, because nothing else is like that for them. Some of them will have iPhones, some of them will have Androids, but all these games and everything is the same. I can still get to TikTok on both of them, at least for now. All our stuff is available, whatever they wanted, though. It's also rather telling to the stance from Spencer comes shortly after GDC, in which there has been less enthusiasm for Xbox hardware manufacturers than ever among developers, though. So basically, there's the response around this from the whole situation at Xbox is kind of interesting, to be exact, though. I'm curious to see what this so-called developer, who these developers are and why they're saying this. Do I think Microsoft is kind of going a different direction, at least with the Xbox brand? To a certain degree, yes. It seems as though they're not relying on just the hardware or the box like what we're seeing with Sony and Nintendo does. I think we've been seeing a major push in terms of, like a stick you can plug into your TV, streaming and everything like that. They seem to be taking a different approach than it is before. It still remains to be seen if this is going to pay out in the end for Microsoft or not. I mean, it might or it might not at all though, but I don't foresee them leaving the hardware business anytime soon, especially if rumors of this all digital Xbox Series X is true, or there are rumors of their next gen console, to even the handheld that they might be working on. Nor do I see them leaving gaming, especially after spending $69 billion to buy Activision Blizzard and everything. So I'm not sure they are leaving gaming, but they are certainly taking a much different approach to gaming than traditionally the way Sony and Nintendo has, to be exact though. And you cannot also ignore the fact that it is also possible they are relying more and more on doing digital than physical, the way, you know, Sony and Sony and Nintendo have been doing so far with their approach and everything like that. So, I mean, is this approach controversial, the direction they're going? Yes, to be exact. Could this end up being less and less third-party support for Microsoft's system? I mean, it's a possibility. I do think there are some issues Microsoft is going to have to address, though. But there's no denying that they are pivoting the Xbox brand in a completely different direction compared to the traditional approach that basically Sony and Nintendo are doing. So time will ultimately tell. We'll see how well this plays out for them, though. But for now, it's where they're heading, at least at this time. So overall, do I think there's some concerns with the third parties, some third parties making a claim about the direction Microsoft is going? To a certain degree, yes, but I don't see Microsoft leaving the gaming space or anything like that, especially after spending all that money in basically to buy Activision Blizzard, though. Could we see over time their different approach to gaming itself? I think that's what we're probably going to see. So we'll see what happens eventually, but there's no denying there are definitely changes coming into the way they're handling, pivoting, you know, the Xbox brand and everything like that. As far as still the claim of them bringing more of their games over to other systems, though, you know, even if Microsoft, whether Microsoft does do that or not, that remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, no matter how I see it, though, it is going to be on a case-by-case basis. So if they decide that they are going to bring Starfield to the PS5 or the Switch successor, fine. If they choose not to, that's fine. At the end of the day, it's their IP, it's their call. They ultimately are going to have to be the ones to make the decision whether they want to do that or not, though. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the Circana numbers that have came out this week? Are you surprised to see Helldivers 2 take the #1 spot? Are you not surprised at all? Did you think it was worth? Do you think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth getting the #2 spot was not that bad? Do you think it performed better in the West or than it did in Japan and everything like that? And what are your thoughts about what do you think games like Rise of the Ronin, Princess Peach Showtime, and Dragon Dogma 2 will do when March's 2024 Circana numbers come out? What are your thoughts about what Phil Spencer said about this Xbox handheld and what he would like to see? Do you think this handheld does exist? Do you think Microsoft will release this handheld? And do you agree with what Phil Spencer would like to see in an Xbox handheld? Or are there ideas you would like to see should an Xbox handheld come to fruition and all? What are your thoughts about Resident Evil 9 possibly doing an open world approach? Do you think this is a smart move on their part, though? Do you think it's not a smart move? Do you think the idea of an open world approach could work? Or do you think it should maintain sort of like the linear approach that past Resident Evil games have done before? What is your thoughts about some of these layoffs and everything like that? Are you surprised to see some of the layoffs at GameStop or not surprised at all? Do you think we're going to hear more layoffs across the industry now that we heard some from Sega and even Nintendo themselves and all? And what are your thoughts about some of the comments Phil Spencer's made about why he's pivoting the Xbox brand for Gen Z, to some of these developers speaking about what's the point putting their games on another on the Xbox if they're going to bring their games over to another system. Do you think that some people are blowing this way out of proportion, or do you think there is some concerns that should be raised about the Xbox brand and everything like that? And do you think Phil Spencer is right in terms of pivoting the Xbox brand because of, like what they view in terms of the younger audience and the Generation Z audience and all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.